Which version of carnivore should you choose? I get this question almost every single day here on YouTube, so today we are going to break it down for you and help you figure out which version of carnivore will work best for you. I'm Jenny. I've been doing the carnivore diet for 17 months and I've been tracking my progress through weight measurements, DEXA scans, continuous glucose monitoring, blood work, arterial scans, and I've been sharing all of that information with you here on YouTube. As of recording, I have lost 43 pounds following the carnivore lifestyle. When I first started carnivore, I didn't know that there were different versions. I just binge watched a few of Dr. Ken Berry's videos and got started. But now that I've been doing carnivore for a while, I have a better understanding of the nuances of carnivore and why you would want to choose one version of carnivore over another. But before we get started, I wanted to mention that 87% of the people that are watching this channel are not subscribed, and I'd really like to get that down to 50% or less. So if you enjoy my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help the channel to grow. Let's start by breaking down the different levels of carnivore from most strict to least strict. Once we list all of these out, we will talk about why you would choose to follow each particular level of strictness. So let's list them out. The most strict version of carnivore is beef, salt, and water. The next level of strictness would be all ruminants. A ruminant is an animal with 4 stomachs, so cows, sheep, goats, moose, elk, deer, etc. The next level of strictness would be all meat and all seafood, followed by all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter. And then the least strict version of carnivore would be all meat, all seafood, eggs, butter, and high-fat dairy. I would not consider the meat and fruit diet to be carnivore because of the high level of carbohydrates and sugar that you're getting from the fruit. But I do consider that to be animal-based, so I will be sure to touch on who I think the meat and fruit diet would be good for in a little bit. Now, as far as seasonings go, salt is included at every level of strictness. I think you can include some seasonings if you're not sensitive to them, like garlic powder or onion powder, maybe some like smoked paprika or something. I'm going to dive more into who I think can use seasonings and the people that I think should probably avoid them, at least in the beginning. And when we're talking about spices, make sure to read the ingredients label, purchase the best, highest quality spices that you can afford. You're looking for organic, you should probably avoid anti-caking agents as much as possible in your seasonings. And you want to avoid anything that has dextrose or other added sugars. Also, make sure you're reading the back of your salt labels. A lot of salts, Morton does this a lot in their salts. They have anti-caking agents and they have dextrose sometimes. So just try to get a high quality sea salt. Celtic sea salt is really good, and Redmond's is also very good as well. Now that we know our levels of strictness, let's pick which version of carnivore would work best for you. What it boils down to are your whys. Why are you doing carnivore in the first place? Do you have a severe autoimmune condition? Do you seem to be allergic to everything? Do you have a chronic disease like type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure? Do you have serious mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder? Are you just trying to lose a few extra pounds? Are you looking to improve your energy levels and your metabolic health? I want you to take out a piece of paper or just do a note on your phone, and I want you to list out why you are wanting to do carnivore in the first place. Here are my whys so you can kind of get your juices flowing and figure out your own. My first why was I wanted to lose weight after my twin pregnancy. I had gained 70 pounds with the boys, and I wanted to have enough energy to be able to keep up with them. My second why is I want to age gracefully. I just turned 40 and I'd like to preserve and improve my metabolic health as much as humanly possible. I'd personally like to live until I'm at least 100, but I want those to be healthy years. I don't want the last 10 to 20 years of my life to just be like laid up in a bed, you know? My third why is my husband and I are contemplating having another baby, and I want to be in the best shape possible before I get pregnant again. For me, pregnancy was not fun. I did not have a good time. I hated it, honestly. And I was overweight when I got pregnant with the boys and then gained 70 pounds. So I'd really like to be at a really healthy weight before we get pregnant. So God forbid I get pregnant with another set of twins and gain another 70 pounds. I'm starting at a much lower weight than I did with the first pregnancy. So pregnancy is a shit show. It's really, really hard on the body. So those are my whys. While you're jotting down your whys, I wanted to talk about today's sponsor, Element Electrolytes. Especially in the beginning of carnivore, you really need to pay attention to your electrolyte levels. A lot of people drop a significant amount of weight in the very beginning of carnivore, and a lot of that is water weight. And with the water go your electrolytes. And that can contribute to the keto flu symptoms that are so very common in the first month or so of carnivore. I like Element because it has everything you need and nothing you don't, with a perfect balance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. I also like that they come in these little packets. They're so easy to travel with. Their raw unflavored is perfect for the carnivore diet, but they have a bunch of other flavors if you want to mix it up a bit. In the beginning of carnivore, I recommend using the raw unflavored Element, 1 packet in 16 to 24 ounces of water, first thing in the morning, right when you wake up, even if you're not feeling any keto flu symptoms, because using these electrolytes can help to mitigate a lot of those keto flu symptoms in the first place. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any drink mix order. That's 8 single serving packets free with any drink mix order. You can just head over to the link in the description. It's drinkelement.com/Jenny Mitich. That's DRINKLMNT.com/Jenny Mitich, and get your free sample pack with any drink mix order today. Okay, so now you have your whys. Let's start with the stricter versions of carnivore and who would benefit the most from choosing those. If you're coming to carnivore, you're really sick. You have a severe autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, severe allergies that you can't seem to pinpoint what is actually causing them, Crohn's disease, hardcore psoriasis, IBS, then you would most likely benefit from a stricter version of carnivore. Many of you have heard of Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter. She had severe childhood rheumatoid arthritis, if I remember correctly, and she had to eliminate everything except for beef, salt, and water for many years. Eating only beef is the original elimination diet, and it can really help you first to heal your body by lowering inflammation levels, which allows your body to heal after years and years of it attacking itself. But once the healing is done, you can slowly reintroduce other foods to see if you have a reaction to them. I think Michaela is now able to eat other ruminants. I think she now eats beef and lamb, but she's been doing this for 5+ years, and she knows her body. She knows that if she was to go back to eating the way she was eating before, she would start to have issues again, and she would much rather feel good and be healthy. So that's why she's remaining super strict on carnivore. People at the stricter levels of carnivore should avoid spices and just focus on using salt for at least the first 90 days. At that point, I think you could experiment with reintroducing 1 spice at a time for just a couple of days to see if it gives you any reactions. You may never be able to use that particular spice again without a reaction, or you might be fine with it, but you're not gonna know until you reintroduce them, after doing this elimination diet. If only eating beef or ruminants sounds really restrictive to you, and you are at one of those, you have more severe conditions that you're trying to treat, you could start by just doing like all meat and all seafood for 90 days and see how you feel. If after 90 days of strict carnivore, and I mean strict, no cheat meals, no plants, no sugar, no anything like that, hardcore strict carnivore, if after 90 days of that you're still not feeling very good, I would recommend that at that point that perhaps you should start maybe just doing only ruminants, or maybe just focusing on beef for a time. Another caveat to this is you may just need more time to heal. If you're feeling a little bit better after 30 to 90 days, you could just try staying strict carnivore and giving your body more time. 30 to 90 days is really just like a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of things, and a bare minimum amount of time to see improvements in your metabolic health. It took you years to get here, so it's gonna take some time to get you into a better state. Now, if your why is a chronic disease or ailment such as high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, acne, metabolic health issues, or mental health issues like depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, then I think you can start with a little less strict version of carnivore. I would recommend all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter. You may also be able to include some spices other than salt. The reason I don't include dairy in this category is because dairy can cause a lot of issues for people and they don't even realize it. Also, dairy is super easy to overeat, and a lot of people that would otherwise have success on carnivore if they didn't include dairy don't have success because they're eating way too much of it. So for this category, I think all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter is a great place to start. After 90 days, you can experiment with adding in some dairy items, but if you notice that you're feeling bogged down or you have digestive issues, for me, I start to feel a little bit of depression and anxiety if I'm having dairy. If you notice anything like that, it'd probably be a good idea to cut out the dairy again. Those are all very common symptoms of dairy intolerance. And just a side note, when we're talking about butter, I don't include butter in under the moniker of dairy because butter has most of the lactose removed from it. Ghee has all of the lactose removed from it. So I don't include butter when I'm talking about dairy. So for this same level of strictness, if after 90 days you're still not feeling well or at your best, I would recommend cutting eggs for a time. Unfortunately, eggs are a common allergen and may be affecting you in ways that you don't even realize. Most of the time, it's the egg whites that are giving people issues, so perhaps you could just eat egg yolks, but I just want you to have that in the back of your mind. Also, a side note, if you're coming to carnivore because one of your whys is mental health issues, I strongly suggest reading a book called Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Dr. Georgia Ede. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing her last name right. I really hope so, because she's amazing. It was just released in 2024. It is such a well-written book, and it focuses on the effects of a ketogenic diet on your mental health. I think that this book will be very helpful for you in navigating your unique situation. I have a link to a free month of Audible in the description below, along with the link to the book, so that you can listen to this book maybe on your morning commute or while you're doing some exercise, or like if you hate reading but you still want to consume this information, Audible is a great option there. You can also just use the link in the description to get the book if you want to read it. I love to read personally. But however you consume this book, if mental health issues are one of your whys, be sure to read this book. Another great resource for learning how to use ketogenic diets in the treatment of mental health issues is a YouTube channel called Metabolic Mind. I'm also going to put a link to that channel in the description below. And finally, we get to the whys of weight loss, improving your energy levels, and other generalized things like that. If you are coming to carnivore just to lose a few extra pounds, you don't have any chronic ailments or anything like that, I think that you can start at whatever level of strictness you want. I would personally recommend starting with all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter. And you could probably throw in a little bit of dairy if you want to. And I think that you can definitely use other spices besides salt. But again, like I mentioned, if you're doing carnivore for a few months and you're still not feeling your best or you're not losing much weight, I would recommend cutting out the dairy, maybe try cutting out the eggs, maybe try dropping the spices or going to a stricter version of carnivore. For some people, adding in more seafood seems to be really helpful. And then there's some other tweaks and adjustments that you can make. You may need to eat higher fats and lower protein. There's lots of different levers that you can adjust to individualize carnivore to your particular situation. I don't think you need to drop all of these items, all at once. I think you should start with one thing. So if you're doing dairy, cut the dairy for a few weeks. See how it makes you feel. If it doesn't make any difference, then I would contemplate maybe cutting another thing or adding another thing in. But I think doing it all at once, you're not really going to figure out what was causing the issue in the first place. Also, though, your body might just be doing some healing that you can't see. There's a ton of other things besides nutrition that affect your metabolic health. Sleep, stress, exercise levels, hormones, your thyroid, and so many other things can affect weight loss. One of my group members in my carnivore community was stuck at the same weight for like 2 months, but she just kept being consistent and kept doing what she was doing. And all of a sudden she dropped like 6 pounds in a couple of weeks. What I call that is a whoosh. She had a whoosh of 6 pounds. So sometimes your body is just doing something that you can't see, and you just need to trust the process. Let's quickly talk about who I think the meat and fruit diet would be good for. It's technically a whole food diet, which I think is great, but you're typically looking at a carb content of at least 200 grams a day coming from the fruit, and that's a lot of carbohydrates. That's a lot of sugar, even if it's coming from a real whole food source. We're not talking about having like a handful of berries with some, freshly whipped heavy cream here coming in at like 20 grams of carbs a day. We're talking about huge amounts of fruit here paired with the fatty meat. Some people following the meat and fruit diet also include a bit of dairy, and some include a little bit of vegetables. An excellent example of somebody who is following a meat and fruit diet is Dr. Paul Saladino. He has a ton of great content over on his channel, so if you're interested in learning more, head over there and check that out. I'll put a link in the description. But the meat and fruit diet is not for everybody, at least not initially. I think for people that are metabolically unhealthy, so for people that have like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, things like that, I don't think it's a good idea to start with the meat and fruit diet because there's still way too many carbs and way too much sugar. Now, there are some people that could benefit from this way of eating, and I think those are like current athletes or very active people that are young and fit already that don't have any serious metabolic health conditions. And especially if you check all those boxes that I just mentioned and you are currently eating a standard American diet, holy smokes, you would have tremendous benefits eating the meat and fruit diet because you would be switching from ultra processed foods over to whole real food. You would probably feel a lot better. I personally think that if you've been low carb for some time, you've reached your goal weight, or at least you're pretty close, you have regulated your glucose levels, you are metabolically healthy again, you may be able to tolerate some fruit in your diet now because you are back to metabolic health. You could try to incorporate more fruit, or if you're doing carnivore, any fruit because you haven't been eating any at all, and just see what happens. One problem that may arise is the sugar that's in the fruit could like reactivate some sort of carb addiction or sugar addiction issue that you had in the past. But I think this is a way of eating that could work for you in the long term after you've healed your body using low carb. I personally have not done the meat and fruit diet, but it's something that I'm interested in, and I think once I hit my goal weight and get to where I want to be, I might experiment with the meat and fruit diet. But for now, I am thriving on carnivore, so I'm just gonna keep doing that. When you're first starting carnivore, there are some special considerations that you may want to take into account before you get started. If you'd like more information about those special considerations, I'm gonna link that video right here. If you're just starting carnivore or doing carnivore by yourself, you can join my Jenny Mitich Carnivore Community. We have a great group of people over there doing carnivore together. I'll put a link in the description so that you can check the group out and see if it's a good fit for you. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I love hearing from you. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.